And good evening, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday Night Q&A, Moffat on Money. I'm Clay, joined here by Ellen. We're glad to see y'all tonight. Glad to see the family back together. Hope everyone has had a good Tuesday.
Yep.
Jane, Brentwood, Sky, Melissa. Hope all of y'all and the rest of y'all's family have had a good start to the week. Good Memorial Day holiday. Sky Ricky starts off with a comment or question. Let's see. Hi, Ellen and Clay, Chuck and Tallulah, and Ellen and the cameraman are a huge success. Before the cooking class, I only saw their heads, and now I'm in love with both of them. Thank you so much.
Aw.
I know, as well as I know the cameraman, I know he is deeply appreciative. So thank you.
So am I. And the puppies.
Which are kind of snuggling in for the night over here, at least for a little while. They'll be up and into trouble, annoying as hell before long, but we'll enjoy it while they're all peaceful.
Hey there, Melissa. It was a fun stream. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you haven't gotten to see it, become a member. It's
And
real simple.
I'll also add the mac and cheese was a modestly huge success at the party.
It was.
So
We didn't have any leftovers. I had people asking to take some home. So I said, we'll go get a container and from your house and we'll put it in there.
it
Which
was
was cool.
it was fine eating. Brentwood, bless your heart. I'll watch the cooking video when I can eat again. About 3 more weeks. I miss real food.
Aw, Brentwood.
Yeah, sorry about that. Um, Thoughts and prayers out to you that everything gets back in order soon.
Absolutely. That's
Also,
nice. I agree. It was fun.
it was a good night. Not as good as well, I can't say that, but I was going to say not as good as last night because got a package in the mail, which is always kind of an interesting deal. Wasn't really expecting this one or anticipating this one, but opened it up. Still makes me laugh. This was
You just ratted yourself out now. So can we call you out?
this was this is what I opened it up to, a beach towel. And here I've got, obviously the flow is going. Got my little computer, my
Is that
beach
not the cutest?
ball, wearing my little stylish shorts with, a proper tie, and obviously showing off the gams.
And Moffat on money on the bottom.
And Moffat on money. Not only that, I got the T-shirt. Stay off my beach.
Get off my beach. And I've got
Get
one
off
as
my
well.
beach.
I don't know. I can't tell what y'all can see. Ooh. Oh, let me get the chair out of the way. Dag nabbit. I'm trying. Life goal. Pet all the dogs. And there's another little thing in there, and we're going to have to wait to show that one because it's going to take some work. I'm not going to reveal that at this moment, but when it gets done, I will do that.
Yeah,
That towel is freaking awesome.
that towel is awesome. I mean, seriously, every time I see it, it makes me laugh. So it is humbling. It really is. In different ways. I owe the individual a thank you letter, but I just don't have the words.
Trying to get my. I was trying to use that other camera, but it whenever I move anything. No, it's not, Sky. Mm-mm. No, no,
It's
no.
it's absolutely perfect.
It
So
is perfect. And Clay was he literally was speechless. He was like, I don't even know what to say. He said, I'm humbled in a way that I can't even express it. So
yeah,
it's all
it
very
is,
appreciated.
it
Thank you.
is very, very much appreciated.
No, no, Sky, you don't get to do that. No, it's perfect. I mean, I've hung it in the home in our house.
Yeah, just that,
And
I
Clay
don't
wanted to get it
know.
framed, actually. He was like, can we just frame it?
Yeah, I don't know what upsets you, but all I know is it's perfect.
It is.
It was just very thoughtful to go to the thought, the effort, whatever. It's just greatly appreciated. It really is.
It is.
You know,
It's
we
really cool.
yeah, we love you guys, and y'all are some of the kindest, most considerate people ever been privileged to know, and I'm just extremely grateful for your friendship, fellowship, and support. Really am.
Absolutely. You know what, Sky? That can be better actually, because the um the sand gets into all the loops of other towels and it's hard to get it out. So it's actually not a horrible thing that it's thin. Thin is good. But like I said, Clay kind of wants to frame it. Oh, Sky, thank
Yeah,
you from this entire family. We
yeah.
appreciate
It
it.
would. It will never see the beach.
No, Clay would never defame it by putting it actually on the beach.
Yeah. And actually, when I go to the beach, people kind of laugh, but I take a sheet and spread it out
He does.
because it doesn't hold sand. It shakes the sand off, and I'm 6'4", so I take up a little room, and a lot of the beach towels just don't have enough length. Sheet does, for 2 or 10 people, whatever size you want, and it is so it's perfect. But the thought is incredibly sweet. So thank you very much.
It is. That was a lot of thought that went into that. And I mean, Clay literally was speechless last night. He was just like, I don't even know what to say.
And my and the shirt, I think that comes from show, I don't know, a month ago or whatever. I was talking about I felt like Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino,
Mm-hmm.
telling people to get off my beach.
Yep.
Um, it was just all very thoughtful. So thank you.
And follow the channel, Sky Ricky's channel on Instagram,
Instagram.
Dogs Discussions. I think we have that banner somewhere here. There we go. Which is very cute. And she actually took a snippet and interviewed us, or I guess me. Everyone followed. Well, fine. I'm just saying, Sky Ricky. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, and a snippet from the cooking members only show, which was really cute.
Yeah, and we'll give you a plug because you never know when we have new viewers watching some of these, so you might pick up a few additional. And if any of y'all have a particular website or whatever you'd like plugged, just send it in and we'll do the same. We know well, one, y'all are very supportive of us. We want to support you.
And even people that you may see that are on YouTube, there are some on Twitter that watch too that don't show up in the YouTube thing. So Sky, you hush.
and I don't think Carson's here yet. For those of you who don't know, Carson's kind of another member of the family. But if Carson sends us in a porn site, we will not be plugging it.
No.
So we have our limits.
We do. We love our
Is
Carson,
she-
but we have our limits.
Yeah, we trying to think of what I ought to say here. This is Tuesday night Q&A. I can't even keep the days of the week straight right now. This is Tuesday night Q&A, so it's really kind of a night for y'all. You have some questions, comments, topics you want to discuss. This is, a good night to do it. I've got a few things to throw out. I think Ellen's got some things to throw out. But, don't let us hog the show. Seriously, if there's something that you want to discuss or talk about or have questions about, want to open up a discussion on, this is the time to do it.
Okay, here we go.
Brentwood, not financial related, but have you seen any of the Karen Reed trial? I honestly have not. E-Train might have.
Carson was telling me, he asked me the same thing a couple of weeks ago, and I have not, but isn't like she was set up or something to take the fall for this? Somebody fill me in. What is going on there?
Yeah, I think I saw on Ian's channel, I think he's
Mm-hmm.
regular broadcast on it.
But you can't go there now. Wait.
But I have not been able to follow it.
Okay,
Good Lord,
yeah.
Brentwood, what is happening in Canton?
She's accused of hitting her officer boyfriend, but it sure feels like a setup. That's kind of what I heard. And I've heard it's wild. I know Carson's following it closely. He's been listening to the whole thing from what I can tell, or at least what he can when he's working or whatever. But is it in Canton? Is that the deal? Yeah, we don't,
And accused of hitting her officer boyfriend. Feels like a setup. Did she just deck him or
like,
wail
is she
on him or what?
Did she kill him? Did she
Did she just slap him?
Bunch of drunk police partying and one ends up, was
Okay,
this
that
the
adds a
boyfriend?
little twist to the story.
Did the boyfriend end up dead? Is that what happened? Okay, here we go. Number of butt dials and butt calls. These people. Someone said something about that, and I didn't catch the reference before. Okay, I'm starting to understand now. Okay. This is Canton. Where's Canton? Help me out.
In Ohio.
Oh, it's Ohio. Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely got into possible conspiracy. Hang on. The boyfriend died in the snow overnight in the front yard, and they collected blood in Solo cups. Really? Wow, that's a lot of experts. Massachusetts. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Solo cups.
I stand corrected.
I heard. I don't know if it was this case or another one, but they were collecting evidence as well in like Walmart bags outside of Boston. Gotcha. She might have accidentally hit him in the snowstorm or snowblower or another visitor or a dog fight. And no dogs from your Instagram. Mm-mm. I mean, if he was outside all night in the snow. Oh, that's what it was. They put the Solo cups in Stop and Shop grocery bags. I heard something about that. Yeah. That's crazy. Like,
yeah, I'm wondering how
contaminations there.
How do you follow? I mean, how do you know which trials to follow? Like with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, you follow that one because they're,
That was obvious.
Yeah, it was, celebrities, big deal or whatever. But like this case, how the hell Do you know to follow it and start covering it in advance?
Oh, good Lord. Okay. Have they not learned anything from OJ? Hey, it worked for OJ. Oh, sorry. Dry. It worked for OJ. If the glove don't fit, you can't acquit. They've used a leaf blower on the crime scene. That's yeah. Sent him some messages like, I hate you. Okay. Well, I mean, I've done that before. Probably to Clay. I'm waiting for
I've never same thing. Yeah.
that Baldwin trial. I want that one too. I'm so interested in that one. Okay, because the feds are investigating the Canton cops over this.
Okay. Well, that's a
Yes,
little
it's
twist.
If everyone was murderer who wrote I hate you, we would all be a lot of jails. Yeah, that, I have, sent that to a few people, probably Clay, like I said, from time to time. That's interesting. Yeah, the Alec Baldwin trial, though, is going to be really good.
And doesn't the guy in South Carolina get another trial, or was that denied?
I've heard it's up in the air. I don't know. I don't know.
Now, if he gets one, that one would be worth covering.
I say it's going to be like a movie, but writers more believable. That's the problem. I mean, you cannot make this shit up. What people do. It's Hang on, y'all are just going. That's going to be juicy. It is. The big story is. Oh, I heard something about that. Okay, the judge is denied Burnock County trial, but he's appealing.
He's appealing it.
What happened with Nick Rekieta? I heard something about I watch congressional trials all day, y'all. I heard that was a big thing, but I don't know what's going on there either. I need to get more into the LawTube stuff here recently. Nick is usually in trouble, but yeah, I know who he is. Hang on, has fallen all the way down. Oh, good Lord, what's up? Hang on, whoa. Hang on.
The guy that got busted for drugs,
arrested for neglecting his kids, drugs and weapons. Okay, weapons. Okay, I'm fine with that. Arrested with wife. Oh, Rock. He was like, I mean, he was controversial, but he wasn't like icky. I didn't think. Apparently, he is icky. Yeah, I mean, he's huge. He was the one that got LawTube started.
Oh, really? I remember the name. I just didn't know the context.
Yeah, over the Waukesha. What's his name? Kevin Keith, the kid.
Yeah, you got to remember, I haven't followed YouTube that
No.
closely.
You know the trial. The Rittenhouse. Thank you, Brentwood.
Oh, Kyle Rittenhouse. Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of got LawTube started with Rittenhouse, and then it was the Amber Heard. Thank you. Yes. So, and then things got weird because people went kind of on their own with the Amber Heard thing, like Legal Bites and a few others, and because he was kind of groping the money from them on his channel during the Rittenhouse trial. And they were like, we're going to do our own thing, which I understand. We should. We know Viva. Viva said the way the warrant reads is different than what people think about the children. Huh. I know you know who Viva is, Clay.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Interesting. Well, darn.
Obviously haven't followed that close enough.
Yeah.
Like, who was it said the real Brentwood, I think. I would say it's like a movie, but writers are more believable than most of these witnesses.
People are more effed up than anybody thinks they are. That's for sure. Yeah, Nick has almost 500,000 subs. I mean, I can't imagine that he would risk all of that. But I don't know. People do weird things.
And sometimes when you see somebody for an hour, a few hours a week, they're on their best behavior and they know
Oh,
everybody's watching.
if that was his best behavior, I can believe that. But he is not he's not known for his good behavior. Let's put it that way.
Even on air.
Oh yeah, he's very
Oh.
controversial.
Huh.
I've seen clips and I was very disturbed by his actions and sad for him. Addiction is cruel and it can make people really nasty. But I mean, all the kids he was an attorney and then he quit when he got YouTube famous, I believe. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. I don't want to say anything that's not true. Oh, wow. I hate that. I get it when people are controversial online. I get that gets clicks and it gets all the things, right? But I didn't realize it was, what was going on in his life, and that may have, contributed to his behavior. Yes, non-practicing attorney. That's what I thought. It is a disease just like cancer. That is for sure, Jane. Man, I hate that for him, and I hope he gets the help he needs. I hope his kids get the help they need. Apparently, his wife, from what I saw in the comments, was kind of part of it or aware of it. Wow, man, people are not who you think they are. I think we learn that every day with different people. It's always disappointing to me.
Yeah, people, put on their best behavior at certain times, and then once you get into the day-to-day activities, the day-to-day living, it's a vastly different picture. Wife and nanny involved, yes. Allegedly,
with the drugs or they had a nanny, but he's accused of neglecting the kids. I'm a little confused. Y'all got to help me out with that one.
So he's an attorney and a non-practicing attorney. Did he give up his practice for YouTube, or did he give it up for some other reason? Did he give it up before YouTube? Don't know.
I think from what I understood, it was because he was successful on YouTube. Who knows? I mean, nobody really knows, I don't guess.
And we do want to be clear. Everything is just simply alleged at this point. He's been convicted of nothing.
I hate that. If any of this is true, I hate it. That's just not cool. I mean, I thought, Nick was kind of funny. From what the warrant says. Weird. Wow. That's... Huh. You're fine, Brentwood. You can be right back whenever you want to. Wow. I mean, I learned about Rekieta through the Depp Heard trial because I didn't know. I was just looking stuff up and actually heard the big thing about the wood in the bed, and that kind of got me onto it. And then started watching Legal Bites mostly, and a little bit of EBD, excuse me. And no EDB, Emily D. Baker. That's crazy. My heart hurts for that family. That's terrible. Sorry. Oh, Jane. Yeah, he did us a solid there.
Yes, he
Um,
did.
I sent him or posted on his channel a random message, like what, 30 minutes, 45 minutes before we were doing the show, right?
I don't remember the exact timing.
I think I mean it was just right um, before his show, and then he happened to give us a shout out. That was awesome.
Yeah, we had done a show on Sam Bankman
Freed
on FTX. Yeah.
and described about what um, cryptocurrency is and how all that, and that's what he.
He apparently watched that and spoke very highly of it. And
Yeah,
so he gave us, he gave us not just a mention, but kind of an extended little discussion.
he did
And,
it. He mentioned us a few times, and Secret was laughing. She was just like, "I'm gonna have to like keep your channel on my links now because Rob keeps talking about you." Very sad for his children who were hungry, really and dirty. And the priest, I heard, oh,
that's really pathetic and true.
dag nabbit. I mean, he would go online and be drinking like, he's a Scotch guy, kind of like you, and be drinking like ridiculously expensive Scotch.
Well, that's
I mean, you
kind of
don't, but you
that's
covet
kind
it.
of the benefit to drinking. Yeah, that's kind of the benefit to drinking expensive Scotch. You tend not to guzzle it.
I mean,
You
he
know,
would drink a bottle or two.
Yeah, it's not something you use to relieve your anxiety, calm your nerves, take you away from whatever reality you're facing. They make Jim Beam for that.
It's hearsay from a teacher and has not been confirmed. Well, everything's alleged. I thought you guys are drinking. The puppies are drinking milk. Sky, come on now.
I'll knock some out in a while.
Before bed, we usually drink. You'll have cereal or milk, or not drink milk before bed usually.
Yeah. And I normally drink water. Every once in a while, I may have a gin and a tonic, but I'm a very occasional drinker. I drink Scotch when I'm sitting out like on the front porch on the swing with a cigar, which I haven't done in a little while. And when I just want to sip and enjoy, commune with nature kind of thing. Or when I'm someplace dark and quiet and just want to be, alone in my thoughts. But I'm not a heavy drinker.
Now, I did give Clay props. I have a Volkswagen, and I don't know why it has this issue with the lights that kind of come on. I think it's ever since the Florence. This has been an issue because I was in the flood thing, which we talked about on Sunday. But I have these lights that pop on, and if the check engine light pops on and my car needs to be inspected, it will not pass inspection just because the light's on. Okay, fine, get it. So I have been trying to get it inspected since October. And bless Clay's little heart, he took my car to get inspected today because the light was off. It passed. Thank the good Lord. So I can be like legal again, which is nice. We try not to break the law, but when I know the car's fine, it's just this freaky, crazy light thing that happens every now and then.
Yeah, and this is the light that'll come on sometimes, like when you didn't close your gas cap correctly, or it didn't seal properly, and after 50 or 100 miles, the vacuum differential changes in the gas tank, and so the sensor goes off. You don't really know what it is, but that check engine light comes on, and normally 90% of the time in the cases I've seen, it's like check engine light. So you just simply take off your gas cap, reinsert it, lock it back up, Give it a few miles and the light goes off. Ellen's is just erratic.
And the right side of my steering wheel controls don't work. And Melissa, and I can't reset because of that. I can't reset when the oil's been changed. That's another issue. And so it comes on. And I'm just like, this is just a fluke. I can't reset. I mean, they all get mad at me like, why can't I need to do reset when you get your oil changed? I'm like, you can't, because the electronics just don't work on that side of the steering wheel. Yeah, it's a hot mess.
And Melissa, she doesn't really drive it much. She doesn't go a whole lot of places. So
Sky, I stay home. Like I told you, I don't go anywhere except when I go to my grandfather's. I really don't go anywhere. I run up to the grocery store real quick, or I run to the Scotchman. But that's maybe what, twice a week?
Yeah, you're talking, 5 minutes to the Scotchman, down there and back. Store depends on how long you're in the store. It's a 4-minute drive. So
yeah.
There's really not much mileage put on the car.
It is I think it's a 12, and I've got 80,000 miles on it. It's 12 years old.
Something like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, I just don't drive that much.
Yeah, the drivetrain's in great shape. The engine's in good shape. Just probably a couple little sensors or something that are feeling their age. So you need to get those cleaned up.
Uncivil Law read the search warrant. Okay. Is that where they mentioned the priest? I'm curious. I don't know. Come on, Sky. What's going on there? Yes. Okay. Gotcha. See, I feel you. We just don't drive anywhere,
Because 2014, I only have 70,000 miles on my car. That's 7,000 a year.
Hmm.
That's
when I got mine. Yeah, when I got mine in 2018, I bought it with 36,000 miles on it. So I've gone 40,000 miles in 6 years.
That's about 7,000 miles a year.
Yeah. We drive about the same, Jane.
0.3.
Yeah.
So not bad.
No, I mean, it's, go ahead.
Yeah, since we, are kind of waiting on other news events for the trial, I'll throw a couple things out. Let's see, James, my Tennessee and back trips that puts the miles on my car. Otherwise, I just fiddle around town once a week. That's kind of like Ellen.
Yeah, going to see Pop, which I'm going tomorrow.
I want to throw this up on the screen.
Throw it up there.
Now, if you remember a while back, I talked about how apparently the BLS had changed the computation of CPI. The CPI, the composition of the market basket, the items of goods that they use to compare prices month to month, does change on occasion, as well as the methodology. They've changed the methodology probably 4 or 5 times since the 1980s.
Can you make it a little bit bigger, Clay?
Yeah, each time results in a lower inflation number. So, that's a little bit unusual, because you wouldn't expect every change, if made just to improve the accuracy, would all shift the number in the same direction. But nonetheless, there you go.
That's not what I meant. I meant the chart bigger.
That's not what I want. Yeah, that's it. Now, this is from the BLSs, the people who compute the CPI, the inflation number. There's actually several different inflation numbers, but we'll just go with the generalized, the inflation number. And here are the items that they have discontinued from the market basket since 2020. And, lamb and mutton, automobile service club.
Hang on. Why would you discontinue something from the CPI?
Because it doesn't seem to fit consumer spending habits anymore. They don't really pay for it, like photo processing.
Well, yeah, I get that, but
infant furniture, people quit having babies.
Well, yeah, but photographer fees, people get married all the time.
Yeah, but it's not common. And then the thing that I find, a couple of things that I find interesting, motor vehicle insurance.
Really?
So your homeowner's insurance, your motor vehicle insurance is not included in the CPI calculation. And we all know, inflation has just blown those numbers up. The past few years, those prices have just blown up. Well, I said, several weeks ago that they had also threw coffee out of the calculation. And here is where, you get the number from. Discontinued price series since 2024. So far this year, they've thrown out canned tomatoes, shortening, and coffee. And coffee since, September, November of 23, the price is up, 70%. It's jumped hugely. And if you look at this, what the size that they're talking about is 13.1 to 20 ounces per can. Well, this is basically the 1 pound bag. So they just put a little range, a little lower and a little higher in case there's some shrinkflation. So here, the BLS on their website, modified May 14th, 2024, are declaring for all to see that coffee is no longer in the price series. The 1 pound bag of coffee is no longer in the price series since March of 2024. Okay.
Tomatoes?
Canned tomatoes.
Tomatoes, yeah. Canned whole per pound. Does that mean all tomatoes or just
canned tomatoes?
Okay.
Now, interestingly, this drew a lot of attention on social media like Twitter and other sites. Well, the BLS comes out, actually should have thrown up their website. The BLS comes out and tweets, hey, we still track coffee. It's still in the CPI. So I go to, this is called the aggregate list. This is the items with average, where the BLS uses average prices. They collect prices from around the country, average them. Okay, nothing, weird or funky in that. And in this list, if you'll notice, coffee is still included. So the BLS says, hey, we didn't drop coffee. Well, notice the bag size per pound, 453 grams. Which coffee, and the BLS is saying, sometimes we drop items just different sizes because people may not be buying that size anymore. Well, you go over here, what coffee did they drop? 453 grams. So I don't know. Do you believe the BLS when they say they drop it? Or do you believe the BLS when they say it's still here?
You gotta, okay, so how many
453 grams in both. Same exact size.
What is is it a pound? What is the grams?
1 pound. It's 1 pound.
Huh.
So here they show the 1 pound bag included. Here they show the 1 pound bag discontinued, thrown out of the series.
So when you go to like Costco, when you buy like the 2 pound, 3 pound, whatever it is, that is included. because it's cheaper.
It's not in this list.
Gotcha. Brentwood.
Now, Brent would ask, why can't they just pick and choose? Shouldn't it
Why
include
can they?
everything?
Yeah.
What they theoretic, and I've got some problems with the methodology, which goes without saying, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
They have a market basket of like 7,000 different goods. I mean, here, wine, red and white table. You've got malt beverages, which is beer. All soft drinks, butter. Ham boneless, excluding can, per pound. Chuck roast, ground beef. Gasoline unleaded. So, they've got 7,700 different items that they track, and they track them in different regions. So the data collected is somewhat sizable. They take all these numbers, do their machinations to them, and, calculate the change of price, the aggregate change of price. And that's the CPI number for the month.
But Clay, I have a question.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they pick the size of the product that is most bought?
That's what they try to do.
Well, a pound of coffee is like what everybody buys.
Yeah.
But they've excluded it, but included it, which makes no
Yes.
sense to me.
Yes, exactly. That's my point.
Okay.
So do I believe them when they say they threw it out? Do I believe them when they say it's still in? I don't know. That's part of my issue with the BLS is there's a lot of things that they're not really open or clear about. Some other examples would be they claim, well, for example, substitutions. Trying to figure out how to explain this. Substitutions. Starting in 1999, they've had the ability to substitute any item for any other item anytime they want. And they don't really detail it or disclose it. So, for example, if, hamburger goes up to $7, $8 a pound.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cricket burger meat may be $1.99 a pound. And so they can substitute and say, well, people instead of buying hamburger are going to buy bugs.
No.
And they can substitute. They don't really do a good job of disclosing their substitutions. They will, I'm pretty damn certain, they pick the item every month that increases the least. So they may, they say coffee, 100% ground roast, all sizes per pound. And 453 grams, which is a specific size. But they may collect, and they don't really say, they may collect prices on 5, 10, 20 different coffee brands. And out of those 20, whichever one increased the least for that month, that's the one they use.
That is such bullshit.
And that's not how people shop.
No.
People buy one specific coffee brand. Or, they're very loyal to certain brands of certain items. So they can substitute. Secondly, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Second thing they do that I think is weird, they do heuristic regression on utility preferences. Now, that's a fancy way of saying that, one, they try to estimate your whimsy as a consumer.
Okay, before you get there, because this is more related to what you said before. I wasn't trying to interrupt you. I'm just trying to. I have a preference in coffee, Pilon, Pilon. It actually comes from Brazil, and they use less pesticides and chemicals than a lot of other coffee companies. It comes through Miami, of course. They import it there. It's not expensive. It's like $3 a pound, which may sound like a lot, but I mean, if you go and you buy Maxwell House or Folgers or whatever, you're paying about the same amount. But it's really good. It's really smooth. It's an espresso blend. You don't have to use as much of it. It's lovely. Love it. So that would be like my preference, all in all. So I get that, but you have to, I don't know. I had a point there, but we got off track. Go ahead. ADHD, love it.
No, you were just basically pointing out you have a preference for coffee, and if you go to the store to buy coffee, you're not really necessarily comparing the minute price difference between that and any other brand. You just buy that brand.
Yeah, because I believe that it's healthier and better for you.
And you already know it's a little more expensive.
Tiny bit.
I'm assuming.
It's not like close to like buying a pound of Starbucks. That's like $12, $18.
I'm saying price is just not a big, huge consideration for most coffee buyers. They don't sit there and pick up every brand and look at which one's cheapest. Now, some people will just buy the cheapest brand, but they don't really compare that price and see if another brand is cheaper this particular week. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but like even if Pilon if it got to like $12 a pound, I wouldn't buy it. I'd try to find something else.
Oh, I know. Things can get ridiculous, but my point is when people buy stuff, they're not buying the absolute lowest priced item every week.
No, of course not.
That's not how they shop. And that shouldn't be the determinant in the inflation model. That's
not at all.
That's kind of an unrealistic standard that works to keep the inflation rate down.
Yeah.
So, I'm sitting here talking about weirdness in the CPI. In 99, they allowed substitution. So that's one weird thing to me. The BLS originally estimated that would reduce inflation by 0.2% per year.
Wait.
Which is an absolute minimum.
Say that again.
In 1999, when they started allowing substitutions, changed the methodology to allow substitutions, they estimated that effect would reduce CPI by 0.2% per year, which to me is an absolute minimum. I think it has a much more significant impact.
That is not how that works. The math does not work that way.
That was just their words.
So they're manipulating the system to make it look better.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And the substitution that effectively works or serves to keep the CPI at its lowest possible point. Now, secondly, as I was mentioning, the BLS applies what it calls a hedonic regression. Now, their goal is to try to estimate what's called consumer utility. That's consumer preferences and thoughts. Now, this is to supposedly account for changes in quality or performance or options like TVs. You buy a TV 5 years ago, it's $2,000. You buy a TV today, it's $2,000. But the picture quality is better. It has Bluetooth. It has different options. So how do you factor in those changes in quality, particularly when the price is roughly the same? That's the BLS's quote unquote goal. Now their explanation is, you might find it interesting. They say, quote, economists approximate pleasure to the idea of utility, a measure of relative satisfaction from the consumption of goods. In price index methodology, hedonic quality adjustment has come to mean the practice of decomposing an item into its constituent characteristics, obtaining estimates of the value of the utility derived from each characteristic. Okay, so blah, blah, blah. The CPI obtains the value estimates used to adjust prices through statistical technique known as regression analysis. Hedonic regression are estimated to determine the value of the utility derived from each of the characteristics that jointly constitute an item. So
that was a really complicated explanation, but I also want to say that I have had jobs and I've been married to people who've had jobs that their raise was contingent upon the CPI.
yes,
If
a
the
lot of people
CPI
are.
went up, but if they're manipulating those numbers, that's screwy. You can't do that. You can't take the cheapest thing that has the lowest inflation rate or whatever, and then make people's salaries dependent upon a number that isn't what the number is.
Yeah, I can pretty much guarantee you that raises, if they are tied to CPI, will never equal what your actual increase in living expenses have been.
How screwed up is that?
Just the nature of the beast. The way people get ahead is to have performance or merit raises or to get a promotion or, do something like that.
Well, like if you're a veterinarian,
Inflation raises normally won't keep up with inflation, and they're a year behind. So
isn't that how the Social Security works, though?
exactly. And this year, some of the things, I saw an estimate for the Medicare premium going up 21%. That's an estimate. Hadn't been officially announced yet.
Oh, it will. I have no doubt.
But your Social Security benefit will probably only go up 2.5%, 2.3, 2.5%. Boom.
Yep, that happened in 2021.
Yeah.
Where it went up like $40 a month, and then you got like a 2% raise on your Social Security.
Yep. Didn't even cover the hike in Medicare expenses.
No.
So back to hedonic regression models. Utility.
Sorry.
When I say utility, just think of a measure of your joy, happiness, disgust, whatever. How does a certain characteristic strike you emotionally or, in your thoughts? That's what they're trying to estimate. And, if I was trying to measure a person's joy, I could give you $1. And, okay, you might be a little happy. I could give you $1 million. And would your happiness be 1,000,000 times the joy you had before? I mean, it would be far greater, but would it be 1,000,000 times?
No.
Yeah, these things don't scale on a linear straight line model. 1 for 1, or some fixed ratio. A linear model. Well, that's how the BLS is estimating these, when actually they change at different rates for different amounts. So the BLS is basically a whimsical model which just projects a straight line. It is the equation of a line, a linear model. So it uses a whimsical methodology to try to represent whimsical quantitative values which are selected on somebody else's whimsy, when the whole process is actually random. It has extensive stochastic properties, randomness. Some days you'll be happier than others, some days sadder than others, some days things make you madder than others. Does this make sense?
I think to Brentwood's point, if it was $1 million tax-free, I'd be pretty happy. You would, but it would not bring you happiness.
Yeah, but would it make you 1,000,000 times happier than me giving you $1? I don't think that scale works. Would you be happier if I gave you $10 million versus $1 million? I think either one you'd be equally happy. You'd prefer the $10 million, but would you really be 10 times happier than if I gave you $1 million? Does that make sense?
I think it does. Just to say you're right. I know a lot of millionaires who are freaking miserable.
Yeah. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about measuring happiness. It's not a straight line thing.
Sure.
It's not a straight line function.
I just find money and happiness to be completely outside of each other.
Yeah, I'm just talking about measuring happiness. Okay, measuring happiness.
Clay, Reed, Brentwood.
Now,
makes total sense.
So my point is, the BLS is using whimsical methods to measure whimsical qualities established by other whimsical approaches, people. And what you're ending up with when you include this kind of data in CPI, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out.
Mm-hmm.
So they're putting in some black box calculation that nobody really knows how the hell they calculate it, and coming out with a number that impacts CPI. So my point is, they have a lot of influence on how CPI turns out by substitution and by this process of hedonic regression. Okay, I'm not asking you to understand hedonic regression per se, because I'm not going to, I haven't spent a whole lot of time trying to explain it, but it's just trying to measure your happiness with a new characteristic on your TV set. Your TV set now has, your new TV set has Bluetooth, your old one didn't. How much happier does that make you? Well, that increases the value of the TV and decreases your actual cost. Does that make sense? In their calculations.
You got to read some comments.
Okay. Makes total sense. And we're just going to stop there.
Oh, no. And then Sky.
Get the 10 mil, not the 1 mil out of him. Good luck getting either one. Jane, I don't think Melinda Gates is very happy right now. How many 100 millions does she have? Probably not enough.
Many, many, many. Not for what she put up with. Good God.
I mean, having to be married to Bill should have a hell of a price. I just personally hate Microsoft, and their products. I think
does.
Bill Gates is the devil.
He's really mad at me for making him suggesting he buy a non-Apple computer.
Well, I've been thinking about it for a while, just because a lot of the work I do has software that really only runs well on a PC. But like yesterday, I had trouble getting it started. And I thought it had crashed, or somehow the BIOS or whatever had gotten corrupted. So I had to spend 30 minutes monkeying with it trying to get it to start. It's just wanky, cobbled together software that is poorly written, poorly designed, trying to imitate a Mac, and I'm like, if you're going to go to all that trouble trying to imitate it, why not just license it directly? Melissa, when I have my first million, we're all going on a Moffat on Money getaway.
When we have ours, we will contribute all to that. Now I don't have a problem with Microsoft computers because you can actually do some code in there and kind of manipulate things, which I'm fine with, but don't do it on my phone or my iPad. That's all Apple.
Well, see, Apple actually runs on Linux. If you go to the command prompt, you can write code in it.
Well, okay, but it's much more difficult than a Microsoft.
Apple Mac is a little harder to program. I'll give that. Most support people hate it because it needs far less support, puts them out of a job.
Brentwood's in. Sweet.
Brentwood's in. Yeah, that would actually be fun as hell to do.
We still got to have the bread bake off. I guess it would be between you and Jane.
We'll line that up someday. Right now, things are pretty hectic, but sometime in the future, we'll do it.
That would be cool before the end of the summer, just to have you guys have a little bake off.
Yeah, but could we get enough people together to serve as impartial judges?
Brentwood and Sky and Melissa. Yeah, why not?
Fly them in?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, Sky, no, she's not going to auction off Green Bean, although he's worth more than $1 million.
Well, talking about, things that are weird about CPI, the black box calculation. BLS doesn't really disclose, how it makes some of these estimates. It's like they don't want people to know exactly what they do and how they do it. That always is an issue to me when government is feeding you information. You ever wonder why economists in the private sector absolutely suck at trying to estimate, CPI and other numbers when they have access to pretty much the same raw data? Well, that's why. The third problem I have with a lot of the numbers produced by BLS BEA is they operate on surveys. They will literally do physical surveys across the country. Well, response to their surveys has dropped dramatically from 60-70% down to 30%, 32%. So how are they making up this difference? They really don't say. Are they using a far smaller sample size, which can lead to more sample bias? Or are they kind of enhancing the data however they want? They don't say. Don't know. So those are several concerns that I have with some of the BLS numbers of data. Now, let me throw it out to you. Does that make sense? I'm not saying that the BLS is intentionally lying. I'm just saying some of the BEA, Bureau of Economic Affairs, BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, I'm just saying some of the numbers they produce are off of estimates by 5 or 6 sigma, 5 or 6 standard deviations. 6 standard deviations would be somewhere in the neighborhood of a chance of 1 in 9 million. So 5 and 6 sigma is pretty much statistically impossible that the numbers differ by that kind of scale. Now, why? Who's, what the problem is, I can't honestly say. I don't have enough information to say that the numbers are being made up or that the numbers are goal seeking. There's a particular goal in mind, a particular target in mind. And so the the agencies act to achieve that goal. There's a lot of discussion, a lot of thought in that area. So I'm just throwing some things out to you for thought, consideration, your future research, whatever.
And now, Melissa, no one gets a date with Green Bean.
I think Melissa's got that book.
Because who could you trust?
Oh, wait.
Who could you trust?
She's offered to auction off a date with him.
I know, but who would you trust?
Chuck's making a bid.
$500. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I'll get a chair. I'll be right back. Sorry.
The posse is loose, running around. Melissa, I think $500 is very reasonable for a date night with Green Bean. Dude's legendary. All right, what else? Saw this article from the New York Times, well-known little daily rag, and it's talking about hotel rooms in the city are so expensive. Average motel room in the city is $301 a night, a record. Notice the next sentence. 1 of every 5 hotels is now a shelter. 1 out of every 5 is now a shelter for illegal aliens. Now, a couple cool things about that. One, when they had regular homeless, they didn't have a shelter program. They now have a shelter program. Basically, the city has entered into a contract with a hotel trade group that controls 16,500 rooms, plus or minus a few. And those rooms are now locked up for immigrants. The loss of those rooms to the regular tourist trade, visitor trade, represents a pretty significant shortage, a pretty significant loss, creating a shortage of rooms in the city. Now, there are also the tent dorms. They're taking over school gymnasiums, whatever. They had an old VA retirement facility they took over, all sorts of things. But the city estimates that it will spend $10 billion in 3 years. Now, this was starting in 2022. So we're actually in the 3rd year. I haven't seen numbers showing exactly what the expense, what the actual cash flow has been to date. But the data that we do know, and some of it from this article from the New York Times, is that the average room rate paid by the city is $139 to $185 per night per room for the whole hotel. The cool thing is the hotel gets that whether the room is occupied or not. Also, that expense does not include the room service charges or food that the city also is covering. How cool is that? You stay at a 4-star hotel and get to order room service? Wonder how cheap that is.
And they clean your room every day.
And they clean your room. In the contract, actually, I saw where it's every other day.
Excuse me.
So, yeah. And you wonder if this is a good deal for the hotels or not. Well, of the 135 hotels initially participating in it, 0 have dropped out. None have chosen to opt out of the program so far. That tells me they're probably pretty satisfied with the deal. Now, the good news is, this is my little,
It's got a little pointer.
yeah, I got to have something in my hands, little pointer, something to throw at people if they're not paying attention. The good news is that New York City is keeping up with its payments to the hotels.
Oh, good God.
Yep, they are making the payments on time and good order. Mayor Eric Adams, highly esteemed mayor of New York City, of the Gotham City, has announced budget cuts in November, including closing libraries, shortening hours, freezing hiring for the New York Police Department,
So they can pay for immigrants,
so they can make their payments for the shelter program.
for the illegal.
How cool is that?
Meanwhile, apparently, the governor says that
Possible.
African American children in the Bronx don't even know what a computer is.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, down
mind blown.
down south, you've got the governors Ducey of Arizona and Abbott of Texas, who are taking vows for contributing to New York City's fine display of charity, contributing to their charitable efforts by busing immigrants to the sanctuary city of New York.
Oh yeah. That one. Melissa,
How's this affected tourism?
greatly.
Yeah, I haven't seen specific numbers, but tourists are having harder times getting rooms. The room rates have soared because
For tourists. Yeah.
tourists, because 1/5 of the available supply has been taken off the market. So, in terms of the number of tourists, I haven't seen.
But I'm gonna call out my step sis right now. Her name is also Ellen, who is in New York, and I can imagine she's having a hard time with it at this point.
A lot of New Yorkers are, particularly in some of the lower income neighborhoods. They're mad that their services are being cut. They're mad that their homeless can't get food and shelter. And they're mad that police services are being cut and violence is increasing.
And even if they do, I know all of you have probably seen the video of the immigrants that basically beat up a police officer and then walked away the next day. Yeah, I wouldn't go to New York now either. And I don't care about the shows and it's not worth the crime. You're right. I mean, there are people on the streets. There are people literally lining up the streets, sleeping on the streets because they don't have anywhere to go. There are people getting into fights, shooting each other, beating the crap out of each other. And there's nothing anyone can do. The police can't fix it. It is total chaos. And Brentwood was saying that her ex is from New York and he wouldn't go there now for anything.
Yeah, I hear some complaints from New Yorkers. I think most of the native New Yorkers, or I can't say most, but a fair number of the native New Yorkers are not happy right now. But I just thought that was interesting. We talked about the immigrant situation there, a few months ago, and then I saw that update. Thought that was a little interesting.
I'm still just in all of the CPI and how they calculate it and how that it's not even. I guess I'm not all that surprised.
Well, we talked about, again, a month ago, a few weeks ago, the Wall Street Journal. I don't know if y'all remember, but the Wall Street Journal took a a grocery shopping basket of standard goods, 100 different items that people buy normally when they go through the stores. And they compared the prices in, I believe it was 2020 or 2021 versus a month ago, 2 months ago. And the inflation rate for those same items was 43%. According to CPI, the food inflation component is about 21% over that same time period. So that kind of shows you, or gives you at least some testimony as to what the impact of some of these quote unquote inflation reducing steps and measures that I've just talked about can have on the actual inflation numbers. If we were using the same methodology to calculate inflation that we used back in the 80s, I feel very confident that inflation would at least be double, maybe triple. It's about 3% now, even triple what the current rate is.
And that rate, like we've said before, isn't like when it's, let's say the inflation rate is like 10% and then it's 3%. It's still going up. It's not like less.
Yeah. We haven't had deflation. Prices haven't come down. They're only increasing at a little bit slower rate, but they're still increasing. And most of your incomes are not. That's where the pinch and the rub really comes. Even this past month in April, hourly wages decreased 0.2% for the month. So that's a 2.5% decrease rate for the year, a decrease of 2.5% for the year. While inflation is still 3, 4, 5%, whatever the real number is. The CPI is going to come in at around 3%.
I think I've heard the entire increase in wages has been about 5%, while the inflation has been, they say on average 20%, but I think it's more than that.
Yeah. I also saw this past month that what was it, import prices or export prices? I may be getting them reversed. I think import prices were up 9%.
Things coming into the U.S.
Things coming into the U.S. because the dollar is weakening again, particularly against the yen and the yuan, which are two of our biggest importers.
Print that money.
So, yeah, inflation is not over.
Protect what you got. That's my advice, and I'm not a financial person. This is not a Moffat on Money official statement.
I mean, I'll make it one, protect what you got always. It's a whole lot easier to lose than it is to keep. And by protecting, you've also got to protect the purchasing power of it, the value of it. You can't just store it in a coffee can. You guarantee it'll purchase less a year, 2 years, 5 years from now. So you've got to be cognizant of trying to earn something with that money, something better than nothing. But protect what is yours.
A lot of people investing in gold recently. A lot.
Gold is drawing more interest, which brings us kind of to our next topic. Steve Forbes, the well-known owner editor of Brentwood. So when are we getting our homestead compound going?
Hopefully soon. I mean, you're already in Tennessee. We're looking at go in that direction. Yeah. Find us some land, little girl. We'll be there.
Yeah, I think Jane's already got a little stake there.
Mm-hmm.
So Sky, Melissa, y'all need to be, making some plans. Carson, whenever you chime in.
Hey.
Hey.
Tonio from
UTW.
Okay.
How about we just go with Tonio? It's good to have you. Appreciate you joining in.
Welcome to the family.
Welcome to the family. This is Tuesday night Q&A, and this is really kind of your night to ask questions, comments, whatever's on your mind, financial nature. We kind of broaden the horizons to all sorts of weird things.
Johnny is fine. Thank you.
But welcome. Where are you from? What region? What area? Yeah, of the country, of the world, whatever. We try not to get too. But gold. Cleveland, Ohio. Well, welcome.
OH.
Yeah, welcome to the little family. We have some very good people, with us that we consider family. So glad to have you join. Gold. As I was saying, I saw an article from Steve Forbes, the editor, significant shareholder in Forbes magazine. And his article was, let me throw this up. There you go. The signs are there. The gold standard is coming back.
Can it?
Well, it's, he makes some interesting points. He wrote, it may seem hard to believe, but the world is, quote unquote, beginning to lurch toward a gold-based monetary system. Now, he says that this is, despite the fact the gold standard is held in almost universal contempt by economists and financial officials.
Hang on. Brentwood, can you put up the banner for Sky, please?
Tonio, New York City hotel rooms are expensive due to high demand, limited supply, tourism recovery, and increased operating costs, driving up prices significantly in the current market. And a good bit of that demand is the 1/5 of the rooms already being filled. And keep in mind, the city of New York is paying for those rooms, whether or not they're occupied.
Yep.
So even if the hotel is only half full or 2/3 full, every room gets charged to the city, which is kind of a nice gig if you can get it. Jane, is there still gold in Fort Knox, or did they give it all away?
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to say, I know Germany has repatriated a lot of their gold back to Germany. Some other countries, I think the UK has. I know Russia had started. I don't know if if they got all of it or not. And something in me wants to say that Fort Knox really doesn't have much of any gold now. Most of it's in the New York Fed. Which I've actually been in that vault. It's not at all like you would imagine.
Is it shiny and gold?
No.
No.
It's kind of this dirty white paint, 50s style. It looks like imagine the Mayberry jail.
With Barney Fife?
With Barney, not with Barney, but imagine the Mayberry jail with 20 or 30 cells, just painted white. And you've got a 6-foot wide vault door you've got to get through to enter it. And it's 18 floors below the surface of the ground. I forget exactly how deep, but it's deep.
All right.
Tonio, Fort Knox still holds gold reserves, though some believe amounts have decreased over time. The U.S. Treasury confirms substantial gold remains stored there. Thanks. I haven't looked. I had a feeling or a hunch that some of the gold had been moved or transferred from there. And, I remember the 10th Armored used to be stationed at Knox. And I'd always, kid people about nobody would ever rob Fort Knox because it was guarded by 600 tanks and 12,000 troops. Now the 10th Armored has been relocated. I don't even know if there's an active division still stationed there, or whether it's now mostly officer training and other services.
That's
Just
kind of,
not certain.
yeah, it's
Sorry.
kind of like where it's like, if there's a protected, very protected place, like Fort Knox, can't get in there. You got to,
Yeah. Fort Knox has always been, it's as safe as the gold at Fort Knox. And when you're guarded by 12,000 troops and 600 tanks, there's probably not a whole lot of people that are going to try to break into it.
Really?
Odds are slim.
And you talked about even a Sunny Point, the munitions that we're close to.
Yeah.
How protected is that? Because that would really kind of freak me out.
They really don't disclose or go into a lot of the security measures.
Mm-hmm.
As far as troops stationed there, there's not a whole lot.
They don't say that on the interwebs.
I mean, anybody with a drone, the Chinese and the Russians already know exactly who's there and what, their family tree. But
probably have drones protecting it. That
Yeah.
could be. Okay, Fort Knox. 147 million ounces of gold.
now, is that current? Jeffrey Baker,
Hey, yeah. What's up?
how you doing? Good to see you. Wife insists we keep some gold. Family found it useful in getting her aunt out of political prison, literally.
All right, Jeff. What's up, man?
That sounds like a story we ought
I
to hear.
so want to know, but I'm scared to ask.
Yeah, don't want to get into your personal
yeah.
business, but if there's anything else there you can conveniently share, we'd love to hear it. And Jane, if the U.S. wants to repatriate the gold standard, does that mean they're going to take it again from the public? Good question.
But his
And-
Melissa, I love you.
Gold standard, Forbes. In his
January 2022.
in his argument, in his opinion piece, it was only about a page long. It was rather brief, but he did make some good points, some interesting statements. I better change it to that. Some interesting statements, most without attribution. But here they are. He said, quote, since the greenback's link to gold was severed, that was by Nixon in 73,
I never think we should know
our
that.
average historic growth rates have fallen by about a third. Median household income today would be at least $40,000.
Not
Median household income today, I want to check this. Real median, this is inflation adjusted median household income right now is $75,000, 74 and change.
I don't believe that for 2 seconds.
Okay, all I'm saying is that's what the
I know
data shows.
that's what it says, but I don't believe that.
And so Forbes saying $40,000 is actually probably true. We would have far lower median household income under the gold standard. But remember, his point is that the money would purchase more.
Yeah, it'd be worth more.
So, I won't quibble about that point.
Thank you, Jim.
Now, he also adds, we never had inflation when the dollar's value was tied to the yellow metal. And the U.S. experienced the greatest long-term economic growth in human history. Okay, those are fascinating statements. Terribly interesting statements, but not necessarily the most accurate. For example, we had a Great Depression. We had several major depressions on the gold standard. Looking at inflation, specific numbers, since 1920, and including only those years when inflation was over 3%, which is kind of a threshold for high inflation, We had 9.9% in 1941. We had 9% in 42, 18.1% in 46.
Wait, you got to back up there.
8.8% in 47, 5.9 in 50, 6% in 51, 4.7 in 68, 6.2 in 69, 5.6 in 70, 3.3 in 71, 3.4 in 72, and 8.7 in 73 when we went off the gold standard.
There were some wars in there, which makes it
Still had inflation.
I know, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, his statement was, quote, "We never had inflation tied to the yellow metal." That's just wrong.
Okay, well, I mean, inflation, as we both agree, it's going to happen no matter what.
Well, okay.
And when there are wars, it's going to adjust. I mean, there's going to be, because you had to put women making things.
Yeah, but a lot of those years were no wars. The 50s, the 60s, the 70s.
70s, Vietnam.
Not much of a war by then. Early 60s.
Come on. 41, 42.
Jeffrey, stay away from specifics since we like to visit the remaining family, but she's a native of one of those people's nations. Fair enough. Thank you, sir.
That sounds like a good maybe plot. It does.
Very glad that it worked for her. Now, I kind of digress. Obviously, don't agree with all of Forbes' characterizations. But, you know, some of the points he made are legit. Forbes talked about signs of change, and some are legit. Central banks, for example, he noted that central banks are purchasing gold, particularly China, India, and Russia have been purchasing gold for a number of years. BRICS. They are the major buyers. The Fed hasn't been doing that much. Now he takes a shot at crypto. He calls it unstable. Can you imagine that? He calls it unstable.
So's the dollar.
And yeah, so's the dollar. And gold has been very stable for decades because the price hasn't moved. Nobody wanted it.
Okay, can I you explain this to me at one point? Okay. Why is gold so popular and have so much worth?
Its popularity is only in certain cultures. Generally in Western cultures, in a lot of, Eastern cultures, it's not that valuable, or hasn't been seen traditionally to be that valuable. We even talked about months ago when we were first talking about cryptocurrency and how to define money. We looked at the rice stones, just big stones. That was money. They showed them gold and they had no real interest in it. So
what's funny to me is that, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like De Beers and some of these companies made diamonds so expensive. They're really not worth all that much because there's so many of them.
Perception is everything in worth.
Yeah. But
and not everybody's perception is the same.
So why is gold like the thing?
The only real universal value worldwide is lead in the form of rapidly moving little pills.
You mean,
yeah.
Bullets.
That's the only really tangible metal substance that has value everywhere in the world.
But no, I think it's odd that, there's this place in New York that has the multimillionaire gold bar stacked in the closet.
The bunny room at his house.
Explain bunny room.
Explain bunny room, Melissa.
I really want to hear about this.
That's an LA term. We might need some background on that.
Is that like Playboy room or actual hot pops, or I'm not sure. No, but like the what are they called? The diamonds in New York, quartz, but
cubic.
No, I can't think of it. Maybe someone, Brentwood probably knows what I'm talking about. Herkimer diamonds from Herkimer, New York. There's special kind of quartz and there's only a limited supply, but it's like worth nothing because diamonds, which there are plenty of, are worth more because they sold it. They sold the idea. They marketed it. They just made it a thing.
Yeah.
The room where all her bunnies lived, you got to be kidding me.
A real bunny room.
It's actual like hot pops.
I'm almost disappointed.
That is oh my gosh. Okay, that's weird.
That's funny. Keeping gold bars there is probably the safest place to keep them because nobody would expect bunnies to be guarding gold.
I figured Jeffrey was going to pop up with something on there.
So in some places it is valued because it isn't the local currency, exchangeable for other currency, not as subject to inflation. Yeah, it's generally more valued in Western societies, and I think that stems from Rome, to my knowledge, was the first country, nation to use gold as currency when they were printing or minting the coins. And of course, the empire spread throughout Europe and the Middle East, Africa. And so that became the Roman coin, the denarius, became kind of the standard currency of the world trade for centuries.
I think because it was soft and malleable and you could like stamp it and mold
You
it.
could shape it. It was pretty. It was shiny. It didn't
Yeah.
rust. It didn't corrode. And it wasn't hugely available. So you didn't have to worry about a lot of counterfeiting per se. Fool's gold really wasn't a thing. So it just seemed to be applicable. And I think that's where a lot of the Western societies just kind of continued that tradition. Because most other metals corrode or are too hard to shape, bend, cut, more difficult to mine, rare, whatever.
Like the end. Hard to cut, hard to
Yeah.
hard to do all the things with. Now, I mean, I can get that, but how do you find it? How do you make that? I'm sorry, I'm getting like real
Philosophical.
that one. Here, like how do you decide that's what you're going to use, that it's metal, that you can melt it, that you can form it, that this is something that works? I mean, how do you do that? How does that come?
It was just out of the
head?
choices they had at the time, the most suitable one. It wasn't that anybody looked at a gold ore versus iron ore or tin ore and silver and said, hey, this one's more valuable. I love this one more. It just, the tin, the iron corrode, rust. Iron is very brittle. You could drop something and it could crack or chip or whatever. So gold was just, a more suitable metal. And that being used in the early currency gave it the imprimatur of more value, gave it the perception of being more valuable. And perception is everything.
With everything. And that,
Yeah. There's not necessarily a reality that makes gold a superior money over every other metal. Some metals are more rare. Platinum, titanium, etc.
Right. Having a little, I think she meant gold is a good idea. Has a unique power. $100 bills too. Something about the single bill is more valuable than 10s or 20s. I don't know why. It is an ADHD nightmare though. That $100 bill is nuts. Trying to look at it. Sorry. Animals, LOL. But I'm sure have had gold bars stacked up too. Probably so.
Now he had them in a real bunny room though.
He had a hot pot bunny room. Not a hot pot. He had a
He had a bunny room. He had several bunny rooms. Jane makes a good point. Cigarettes, coffee, and sugar will be worth more in the global economy collapses. You can't eat gold. And that's, well, we'll talk about gold in its particular attributes for money in a minute. Let me get through with some of these thoughts.
And Brentwood, you are forgiven. You've had some medical things.
That's all right.
We love you. You're fine.
Now, as I was saying, Forbes was taking a shot at crypto. Said you can't use it to conduct, in his quote, you can't use it to conduct commercial transactions. Well, you can't really use gold either. Okay. If you want to take a bar of gold down to the grocery store, you're going to have some problems. One, they're not really sure it's gold. It has to be tested and assayed. So you have to destroy a part of it. Most people don't have a local assay lab, in their pocket.
And how much do you shave
And
off?
how much do you shave off?
That's crazy.
So gold isn't really good for commercial transactions either. Bitcoin is actually far easier, far cheaper. It's safer. There's no mimicking Bitcoin. It's easier to scale and transport than gold. And, Bitcoin has held its value over the past 15 years a hell of a lot better than gold has. It's actually increased its value, whereas gold has still probably lost value. But I digress again. Whoops, Melissa. Fun fact, one of LA's biggest pug rescuers was a Playboy bunny. Heft gave her her first pug.
Her name was Melissa Summock. No, I'm kidding.
I was going to make another joke, but that cut that off.
Okay,
So,
sorry about
yeah,
that.
no. That's funny. Pugs lead just a damn good life. That's all I can say.
Melissa, it was shocking to me that you were like, oh my gosh, there's green bean on your refrigerator. I told you he was going to be there. He's been there since you sent that to us. So he lives on our fridge.
Now, also another good point that Forbes
Yes, he
made
did.
was that he pointed out, quote unquote, the binge of debt creation, both public and private. And he also mentioned BRICS as a future trend. We've talked about BRICS before. It's the kind of economic union of Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Saudi Arabia has joined. Germany is joining. France has talked about joining. So there's over 40 different countries that are trying to affiliate with BRICS. And BRICS is really a anti-dollar organization. Anti-dollar is the reserve currency organization. We talk about the administration weaponizing the dollar. And so now all of a sudden, a lot of countries are hesitant to base their transactions in the dollar or to maintain dollar reserves because, like Russia can't access its dollar reserves. Russia has been kicked off the SWIFT network to conduct transactions, international transactions. So, a lot of countries are saying, hey, if the U.S. doesn't like our policies, they can do the same thing or will do the same thing because now we've started doing it. Whereas historically, we have never used the dollar as a weapon. That's why so many people had confidence trading and holding the dollar. That's why efforts to replace the dollar always failed. Well,
not anymore.
Yeah, it's the dollar is still the reserve currency, but the percentage of businesses conducted in the dollar has dropped probably from 85 to around, don't know currently, probably close to 50, 55%. It's a huge drop and is continuing to drop. Those countries and others are increasingly looking and coming up with ways to do trade in any bill but the dollar. So Forbes makes some good points. Now he closes by using India and Zimbabwe as an example. India has, for the first time, issued bonds denominated in gold, backed by gold. And Zimbabwe had, Zimbabwe, the poster child for hyperinflation. I need to bring them home, but I'm actually a trillionaire in Zimbabwe. I have, I'm not kid you not, I'm a trillionaire.
You have like $1 trillion.
So I have a $1 trillion Zimbabwe note. So, maybe we can hold our bread bake-off in Zimbabwe. Yeah, I'm just getting all sorts of tongue-tied.
But what do you think that there is a
conspiracy to take the U.S. dollar away as the reserve currency.
I don't think it's any conspiracy. I think it's an outright effort.
Okay. I was just trying to.
Yeah, a lot of countries really don't want to. Being the reserve currency helps us as citizens, helps the government, helps us fund our debt, lowers our trade frictions, makes international travel easier. All sorts of benefits to the U.S. for being the reserve currency. Now,
Chief is applying for his passport now for Zimbabwe.
Chuck locked out.
I will let him in, but it's going to be a shit show.
He's outside crying outside the door, and Toulouse in, and I'm thinking that's
Who's
just
not causing any problems?
that's just racist.
Oh, stop it! Just because she has more black skin than he does. Don't even go there with me.
So Forbes, he uses India and Zimbabwe as examples of the future trend of shifting toward gold-backed currencies. He says it's kind of a sign of things to come, as if nations were looking towards Zimbabwe for economic policy ideas. I don't know. I just found that a little amusing.
Never heard of that one before.
Yeah. So honestly, wasn't terribly impressed with the shallow nature of the Forbes article. And it's a one-page article. I'm not necessarily knocking Steve. He had a few good ideas, a few good thoughts, and it's hard to really develop much in a one-page opinion piece that has to fit in under, I don't know, 600, 1,000 words. I don't know. But there's some other points to be made along this line. And, some of it, to elaborate on what Forbes said, central banks are buying gold. In 23 alone, the purchases totaled over 1,000 tons. It was 1,070 tons of gold. Now, this is the second year in a row. Yeah, I have to do the math. I don't know.
How much is one brick? Yeah, I don't know. All right, we'll move on. You don't need to find out right now.
We'll come back to that. So this is the second year in a row that more than 1,000 tons have been purchased by the central banks. Again, primarily China, Russia, and India, I think was the third one. The BRICS lead it as testimony to their conviction to undermine the dollar. No doubt about it. It's the plan. Secondly, Forbes' point about the binge of debt creation. Gold tends to restrict debt. That's really not debatable. It just does, particularly when you understand how gold and money works. Gold makes borrowing money prohibitively expensive due to the lack of money in the economy.
Okay. Borrowing money for who? From who? For and from.
Yeah, whoever has the money borrowing it from them is terribly expensive.
But if I gave you a brick of gold, you wouldn't lend me money?
I would have currency backed by that gold.
Oh, I thought you were talking about everyday gold.
Everyday lending. Credit cards probably wouldn't exist on a gold standard. Your home mortgage rate would probably be double or triple what it is. Your car interest rate would be a multiple of times higher. Because on a gold standard, the people argue that gold limits government spending and government debt. They can't just print money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, think about, you've got a supply of money that's fixed, but the economy wants to grow.
It's not.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
The economy wants to grow. The population grows, but that supply of gold, that supply of money doesn't grow as fast as those two. Therefore, the demand for the money backed by that gold increases faster than the money supply grows. So the price of that money, supply and demand, money has a supply and demand function. If demand for money grows and the supply of the money does not grow, the price goes up. The price of money is the interest rate.
So you can still print money and have gold back it up.
But you have to lower the backing.
That's fine. It's not any worse than what we're doing right now.
I think it is.
Okay, why is that?
Well, I'll just explain why.
Well,
Because interest rates go high. All right,
But
let me continue on for a second. Because we'll get into this a little bit more. I'm just delaying that question, not
okay.
trying to not answer it. So if money is tied to gold, it limits the growth of money, which limits inflation. Well, there are consequences to every action. And the consequences of not having an expanding money supply, particularly as the economy expands or as the population expands, is that the price of that money rises. So what gold does, it ends up limiting new jobs, innovation, research, as well as luxury spending. Whatever luxury items you have, you probably wouldn't be able to afford. Now, you know, some like Jim Rickards will argue also that the world is shifting towards a gold standard and that resistance, you know, people think academics, economists and finance people are against a gold standard, and they oftentimes are. Well, Rickards argues that they're against it because it limits government, and a gold standard would limit government spending. You know, if it does that, I've maintained, you know, well, under a gold standard, we've seen FDR get around the gold standard. We've seen Nixon just take government off the gold standard so, you know, it could do spending. So it's kind of hard to argue that gold really limits government when they have so many ways around it. But
Hold on for a second. You don't support the gold standard. I do.
I know.
Yeah, I'm just making that clear.
But I don't oppose it for that reason. Hell, I support that goal. You'll have a hard time finding anybody that hates government as much as I do, particularly big burgeoning government. I oppose it. I oppose the gold standard because I think it limits prosperity. Limits prosperity. And that's what the gold bugs never consider. I remember I was talking to I'll just say a well-known politician from Texas who was a big gold bug, big gold advocate. And he had a favorite example that he would give in speeches when he was on the stump about how a cost of a suit, a nice handmade suit, at the turn of the century, and this was in the 1900s, so at 1900, that suit cost $100. Well, here later, the end of the 1990s, that suit cost $2,000. And he's like, that's inflation. The value, the goods that your money purchases, it purchases less. It's lost value, inflation. And he argued like that was a bad thing. And, you know, so I pointed out kind of simple math. Back in 1900, the average worker made 50 cents a day. And they worked real days, sunrise to sunset, just a brief break for lunch, breaking work. That didn't even include the hours they had to travel to get to work or from work. 50 cents a day. If a suit cost $100, it took you 200 days of work for the average worker to buy that suit. Fast forward to 1990s. Average workers making $55,000 a year. For easy math, let's say it's 52, $1,000 a week. You work 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. You get a 30-minute, hour-long lunch. You get 15-minute breaks twice a day. But at $1,000 a week for 5 days, it takes you 10 days of work to buy that same tailored suit. So in what environment would you rather live? An environment where it suit, or the environment where it took you 10 days to buy that suit?
Okay, I want you to help me with this equation then. Okay. Okay. If
Yeah.
it took me 10 days to buy that suit, and in a year, the money that I had earned, which was backed by nothing but opinion.
That's all gold is backed by.
Okay, but gold typically has a worldwide opinion of being worth something. It's on
Western
the
world.
stock market.
Western world.
Okay. It's cash on the stock market.
Yeah, the dollar's traded on the markets.
Not the same way gold is. It's a commodity. Yes? No?
Okay, go ahead and make your point.
Okay. So somewhere, right, that gold has a value. Maybe not here, maybe over there, maybe around the world, whatever. It's always been the thing. The US currency doesn't always have a backing. It doesn't always have a value depending upon, it's just paper. And if the world decides that we're not the currency anymore, then what is it worth?
I could be in BFE Azerbaijan and need a ride desperately. I could have a bar of gold or $100 bill.
I think the bar of gold would
No,
Yes,
they
why?
wouldn't. They'd take the $100 bill. The bar of gold is useless to them. It's all perception.
Y'all help me out here.
There is no helping her out. The
You are not always right
no.
about everything.
I-
Okay.
The facts are simple. You can have different opinions, but you're not entitled to your own set of facts. The gold does limit government spending. It does limit inflation.
Wouldn't that help?
It also
right now?
limits prosperity. It also makes obtaining luxury items much more difficult. For those history buffs, you remember Teddy Roosevelt and his fight against the trust. Do you remember that?
May I use
Do you remember that?
Is this a pen I can use? Okay.
Do you
I'm
remember that? Teddy Roosevelt taking on the trust busting.
No, I wasn't alive then.
That's history.
Okay, move. So if I have this much cash, that's
No,
backed
we're not going to do this. You
by
just
nothing, and this much cash, same amount, backed by gold, I expand this or I expand this. What's the difference?
Well, the simple fact is, if you can expand each equally, there's no difference. The idea, the theory is that you can't expand the gold. Now, Teddy Roosevelt just made fame and history busting trust. Well, who were the trust? They were the bankers and the Wall Street financiers who owned the gold. They controlled who was able to access money. And they were even relatively crude and corrupt about it.
Don't they still?
No. The idea is that when you have gold concentrates power, if we were on the gold standard, it concentrates power in the hands of a few. The people who own the gold. Not everybody's going to own the gold. Not everybody's going to have access to the gold. The concentration of power represented by gold ownership is what I oppose, and why I oppose a gold standard. If there was a way to do it that didn't bind increases in money supply to keep the price of money reasonable for the poor and middle class.
But that's not what I'm saying, though.
I'm just talking about history and how gold standard works.
I know, but that's not my idea of the gold standard.
So that's how the gold standard works. It limits the growth of money. Now, so I don't oppose gold because it limits inflation. I don't oppose gold because it limits government spending. I oppose gold because my opinion, is it limits prosperity. It limits access to capital and currency. It's hard to it's hard to grow the supply of money as the economy grows and as the population grows without having a fiat standard. Now, does that mean that, and keep in mind, we had inflation on gold, we had depressions on gold, we had all sorts of problems economically on gold.
You have yet to explain fiat.
Fiat is just simply where the government can print the money that they want, which they
Can on gold.
can on gold if it's not restricted.
Why would it be restricted?
Well, if the laws prohibited government from expanding the supply of money, depends on how it's written or
But
constructed.
they don't now on fiat.
Okay. The thing with fiat is it allows the money supply to increase. The problem with fiat is you can increase it easily. And so you can increase it faster than the population is growing,
Which means the inflation is
which
quicker.
means you get inflation. So neither system is perfect. That's why, I argue, kind of against the Fed. I don't want to see the Fed destroyed because I would rather have monetary policy. Somebody, somewhere is going to make monetary policy. It's either the Federal Reserve or the president. I would rather have an independent board making monetary policy decisions. Now, having said that, I don't think the board of the Fed is, one, terribly independent, two, is well represented.
I was about to say, isn't this the government for the people, by the people?
Well, the Fed is made up of academics, people who have never been involved in lending money. People have never been involved in managing deposits or commercial banking or monetary supply issues. They've always been theoreticians, and they think their theory is perfect.
Academics don't make the decisions.
No, academics don't make the best decisions. Can't get any, I'll give a witness to that. So I think the Fed needs reforming. I think the Fed needs some major reforms. Right now, the Fed gathers together, throws all their all their numbers, data into a black box, comes out with some kind of whimsical estimation again. What I would rather see is the Fed bound to using a rule like the Taylor rule. The Taylor rule is a relatively simple formula that takes GDP, current inflation rates, and calculates an interest rate for the price of money. And if inflation starts ticking up a little bit, then that formula increases and starts increasing the rate a little bit. So it's kind of a constant give and take with the growth of the economy, with inflation. The Taylor rule was what we used during the 80s and halfway, 3/4 through the 90s. And the economy experienced, particularly after the 70s, 3% inflation, 1.5% inflation for 15 years. It was stable. The economy grew at good, steady rates. It didn't burn out too high. It didn't, we didn't have a severe recession. There was a very, very brief recession in 90, I believe. Lasted 6 months and was very mild. So I would like to see something like the Taylor rule implemented and the Fed bound to it, unless there was a national crisis like 9/11.
It was a shit show, though.
Yeah, after 9/11, business just ground to a halt.
It did, and we went after a country that didn't have the things.
Well,
that
let's
they
not get
were.
into all that. Let's just stay with the Fed
We
for a
wasted
second.
a lot of money.
And the Fed, without the ability to crank down interest rates, the economy would have just stopped. ground to a halt. I was CFO at a publishing company, and we had, before 9/11, 9/10, we had about a year and a half backlog of work. Within 2 weeks of 9/11, every contract had been canceled. We had zero work, and we were not atypical.
Within 2 weeks? Or after
Within 2 weeks, 2 weeks after 9/11,
Okay.
every contract had been canceled. And if the Fed didn't crank down interest rates to near zero and practically offer free money, a lot of companies would not have felt comfortable taking the risk, borrowing money to fund their current operations and pay their people and try to get the economy started back up again. Things would have just literally ground to a halt, and the economy would have been far, far worse. So I think for emergencies, we need a lender of last resort. We need somebody that can offer up money in emergency situations.
I think I am in business in 2008. I bartered with people because I had a skill of, cutting hair, coloring hair, whatever. And then I got free dental. I got all these things. And it's like, sometimes you just have to barter. I mean,
Yeah.
The American people will figure it out.
Yeah, we
Always.
literally would have been trading bearskin rugs under a tree.
Well, I kind of was.
If
I mean,
you
it was just
remember
like-
how New Orleans was after Katrina,
Mhm.
you had roving gangs, you had a lot of assaults, a lot of theft, whatever. That's the kind of scenario, kind of a post-apocalyptic scenario that you would have if the economy crashes. You want to see somebody mean and nasty, find a mama that's got a little baby that can't buy formula and can't feed her baby. What will she be willing to do to get that baby food?
Depends on the mama.
Well, true. But I think you see my point. Society would degrade greatly if their money vanished.
But that doesn't mean you're a gold standard. It's just
Well, it does. I'm talking about if you get rid of the Fed and just replace.
I didn't say get rid of that.
Yeah, no, some people do. Some people argue that's why we need to go to the gold standard, get rid of the Fed.
No, I'm saying have both.
So, any questions on gold standard? There has some good points. I'm not necessarily, there's the cons are more persuasive to me than the pros.
No, good debate. Thanks.
But
No, I mean, I'm not saying there shouldn't be a Fed. I'm just saying that I would prefer there be something to back up the U.S. dollar other than air and ideas.
well, see, to me, gold. What backs up gold?
The whole world finds it valuable.
No, the whole world doesn't. Let's be clear. Only
does
Western
not?
society.
So what do Eastern societies find valuable? 'Cause I'm pretty sure gold, diamonds, the whole thing is part of their.
Only the westernized ones do. If you go in the backwoods and
Japan.
cultures, they don't care.
Well, I can cut their hair and
I'm just
They'll be
saying
happy.
the whole world is not mesmerized by
most
gold.
of the Western.
But even then, you can't conduct commercial trade in gold. You can't use it for currency.
No, but if it's backed by something, it is just like you feel better about it, then this could be worth nothing tomorrow.
It's only backed by perception.
Everything's backed by
Same like the
perception.
diamonds. Yeah. So the dollar's backed by perception. Will people kill for the dollar? Yes, they will.
Will they? I wouldn't.
Yeah. I had a good friend of mine killed for $5. That's all he was carrying on him.
You meant somebody who was desperate to have something.
Anybody.
When? How long ago?
1977.
That's a long time ago.
Hey, it's
I
even
was a
worse
year
now.
old.
It's even worse now. People will kill for money.
People will kill for food. now.
People will kill for the dollar.
Okay.
That has value. Anything that somebody will kill for has value. Now I saw
Okay,
this.
wait. People will kill for sex. They will kill for lots of things, drugs, whatever.
Yeah.
That does not mean it has actual value
Yeah, it does.
to them.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It's perception. It's all perception.
But no,
Yes, Ellen.
that is so messed up.
All right, y'all help me out with Ellen here. She's being obstinate. This guy, the guy on the left, you know, SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried.
Thank you.
Sam Bankman-Fried, which most of y'all know, and we have talked about him at some length. Well, the good news is we don't care about him. We're interested in this dude,
Who is that?
his bodyguard.
Does he have value?
His bodyguard is
the one to
now
kill for?
Robert De Niro's bodyguard. But wait, it gets better. Can y'all tell I was bored today? It gets better. This guy has worked as a bodyguard for a number of well-known celebrities. How about Ghislaine Maxwell? How about Epstein?
OJ.
How about OJ?
Shut the fuck up.
How about Ray Gotti?
No.
Ray Gotti, a well-known New York mobster.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay awake. It's 9:15. I'm hanging in there.
This guy's name is Jimmy Harkins. I'm sorry. And he is in New York, a relatively legendary PI who's a ex-New York detective. And he has, turned up in some of the most notorious New York criminal cases in New York criminal history. He's helping defend, all these well-known celebrities, let's say. And he's just had, he's established a well-known history of working for mobsters, corrupt cops, pedophiles, and now De Niro.
What's De Niro done now?
My question is, what's De Niro about to be charged with?
Oh, jeez. Now JD wants a bodyguard on his hair. Oh, it's like a Netflix documentary. Not a good track record.
Yeah, I'm not saying De Niro's about to be charged or making any allegations, but it's just kind of, it's small world kind of thing. And isn't it funny how all these people run in the same circles?
And who was it that went on TV and said they were supporting Trump and people lost their minds? He should probably use that guy. I don't know. Go down your comments. Who we got? Well, none, all of them ended badly. Yeah. Maybe he's a rat. I mean, informant. I don't know, man. This is nutty.
I mean,
how did you find that?
It was random.
It must have been.
Yeah,
it's very fishy. He seems to be involved in all the things.
Yeah. The thing with considering his background, it was just, that's some heavyweights there in New York criminal history. Of course, OJ wasn't New York. Yeah. And I don't know how he got.
De Niro's not. Is he?
I think he has a house in New York.
Well,
yeah,
OJ
residence in New
probably
York.
did too.
And New York's accent is Bronx. He's a New Yorker.
Who?
De Niro.
Oh.
But yeah, interesting.
Real or not.
Like I said, I just saw this and thought, well, that's kind of a hoot. I don't know anything else about it. It was just kind of funny to me. So I thought I would throw it up in closing. Maybe give you a chance to have a smile.
Well, we can talk about voting if you want. Blaze does not want to talk about this subject. Maybe he supports the Clintons. Yeah, no kidding, right?
I was thinking he might have actually, but I'm not sure. I am not sure. Ellen wants to talk about voting, so I'm going to give
No.
her the floor.
No, you're not. You- no, I sent you a video. It's on YouTube on art. I can't bring it up. You have to. It's the guy telling you him didn't know that. Apparently not. No, there was a Senate hearing and they were talking about it was on, voter election and the making it all good. And I swear, why do they keep commenting on the Columbia University thing? Like, in forever. You gotta get a studio to get it.
How about you said you emailed it to me?
No, it's on studio. I told you that. Before. Show it to me. You may or may not get there. We'll see. Do the, and I want y'all's thoughts on this. No, not that one.
This one?
Gotta go back and change the things. Sorry, y'all.
All right, y'all. I've got to restart this because it
Night, Brentwood.
when something has sound.
And make it full screen. What do y'all think about this? This is what I want to know.
The U.S. Constitution protects the rights of citizens of the United States to vote in our elections. In fact, federal law makes it a felony for non-citizens to vote in federal elections. Most but not all states outlaw non-citizen voting in their elections. American elections are for American citizens, and we intend to keep it that way. Recently, we've seen Democratic-run cities allowing non-citizens to vote in local elections.
What's going on here?
YouTube streaming.
It should be uploaded just fine. Down, if you can. Seriously. It should be just fine.
Washington, D.C., New York, Maryland, California, and others have passed legislation to allow non-citizens to vote in elections. This causes a host of problems for a state to maintain clean voter registration lists. Let me explain. The National Voter Registration Act was enacted to help increase the number of eligible American citizens that are registered to vote. By giving applicants voter registration forms when getting a driver's license, more individuals are likely to register. However, non-citizens here legally are entitled to federal, state benefits, including driver's licenses. That means when, in some circumstances, non-citizens also receive the same voter registration forms. My concern is that the interpretation of the NVRA makes it difficult for states to maintain clean voter lists. We should be giving states tools to ensure their voter rolls are clean as we approach November's election. Yet jurisdictions allowing non-citizens to vote, like Washington, D.C., are only required to keep one voter list. Maintaining one clean list with U.S. citizens and non-citizen voters presents challenges. Let's take a look at examples of these challenges where NVRA was misinterpreted in Pennsylvania.
So basically, they're saying that, anyone who applies for a driver's license, yes, ma'am, they do. And for 30 years, Pennsylvania has allowed everyone who applied for a driver's license and got registered to vote has been on the rolls for 30 years. And with the influx now of all the people coming into the country, that is a problem. Ohio has the same issue. So do many other states that are, sanctuary city states, where they are absolutely with the, the voter drivers program.
Mhm.
They're all being allowed. which is very, very concerning because they only have one voter roll. If they can vote in the municipal elections and then they have one voter roll and they're all allowed to vote for federal, and that is a federal offense. That's a felony if you are a non-citizen voting in a
Federal election.
so thoughts.
Yeah, interestingly, this guy put up a bill to repeal the DC law allowing non-citizen voting, and it passed the House with majority Republicans voting for it and a majority of the Democrats voting against it. So the question really
But it goes
is,
to Senate now, right?
yeah, it won't pass. the
It
Senate.
won't pass.
Biden wouldn't sign it. Schumer's even come out and said they want to give illegals, aliens, the vote. So that's really kind of the question, or I think the topic that
Mhm.
Ellen wanted to discuss is, should non-citizens be allowed to vote in American elections?
Federal, especially. I mean, if you
Federal,
want to vote in
city,
municipal,
state.
whatever, but federal. Should you be able to vote for president if you are an illegal?
Yeah, all I know is if I went to another country and tried to vote in their election, I'd probably be doing hard time in their prison.
Yes, you would probably shut. I do want to do a poll on this to see what you guys think, but I just think it's like, no, if you don't live here, if you're not a citizen, why should you get to vote for the president of the United States? That just seems insane to me.
Well, the thing to me is that each vote of a non-citizen cancels out the vote of a citizen.
Yep.
And I think it's incumbent to protect the votes of citizens, to respect the will of the people.
And they get more electoral votes if they based on population, not American population, not citizen population, but population in general.
The Census Bureau doesn't discriminate,
No.
doesn't identify between citizens and non-citizens.
And to me, that's just nutty. Like, why in the world would you want people who aren't citizens to vote for who rules this country or makes decisions for this country? Or it blows my mind
So there you go. That's what's been eating on Ellen
all day long. Yes.
all day long.
Mhm.
She's relatively intense about it.
I think I just want the backlash of that now as citizens are not there. We are not the priority, and that it just tears me up. I mean, you see New York spending all the money on people who are not citizens. It's just like when are we going to be anyone who's important? I mean,
Well,
families look they're 1700 and it's just like, come on.
it's not only that citizens aren't the priority, it's that, in many politicians' eyes, they're the enemy. That, I think, is a huge difference.
Yeah.
You look at some of the comments of New York's governor over the past, few weeks. You look at- Yeah, you look at how many in
Okay.
DC deal with political opponents or view political opponents. Absolutely the enemy. Absolutely want to crush them, put them in jail, put them away, deny them their very existence.
Well, how they sent elementary school kids out of school to make a shelter for immigrants in New York.
Yeah, it's just, this is an issue. And, obviously there are some people that think non-citizens ought to have all the same rights as citizens.
And
right here, there's, 161 Democrats
I'm
in
not
the House.
I'm not against legal immigration. If you want to come here, you seek asylum, you need to come to the U.S. for your safety, your family's safety, whatever it is. Cool, all about it. However, if you're coming here and you're a gang member or you're just happy that you're here because Joe Biden let you in. No, you don't get to vote. You don't get to do the thing.
Yeah, here's 161 congressmen who have taken an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United
And they're
States, who are violating the constitutional requirement that only citizens can vote.
It is a felony if you vote in a federal election and you're not a citizen. It is a felony.
So that's amazing to me. Are they completely oblivious to the Constitution, or do they just hate it?
They hate it.
I don't know. I mean,
They don't want they want Marxism, communism, socialism. They don't want the Constitution. They want to control it all. I'm sorry.
yeah, it's just, I kind of look at this and,
And
I don't know.
It pisses me off.
I don't know
You
whether
know
to
it
be
does.
sad or angry. I can't really judge their motives. I can judge their actions. And the 14th Amendment is not ambiguous.
Yeah.
There's only one way to, interpret that. There are many ways to ignore that. But
And it's
that's amazing to me.
it's
Just simply amazing.
infuriating to me. And Clay has to hear it. He's like, oh God, Ellen again. I'm like, it's just, this is not what this country was founded on. This is not, you can't just waltz in here and do whatever the hell you want to do. You can't just waltz in here and rape people. You can't just waltz in here and put children in danger. You can't just waltz in here and do whatever the hell you want to do. That's not how it works. You have to go through a process. You should go through a process. You should be detained. And if you just open the doors, Lake and Riley.
Yep.
I mean, it's awful. Good night, Jane. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think
my
it's
bedtime,
getting
Jane.
to be everybody's bedtime. So
I could go on.
yeah, we
about
want
this
to
for
thank you for
hours.
joining us tonight. We appreciate you
Thank
very much.
Mhm.
Enjoyed you being with us. Hope you found the time profitable. And, if there's something you'd like to see or question or discuss, or you want to extend this in some way, email me, Moffat on Money, DM me Twitter, Moffat on Money,
If you have-
moffatonmoney@gmail.com.
or it's around the bottom. And if you have a specific question that you don't want anyone else to see, Clay is on Manette, and that is app.manette.com/expert/Clay Moffat.
Yeah. And, if y'all got some ideas for future topics, would love to hear from you. Hope to see you all Saturday night. And before you go, if you will, hit that like, subscribe button. Do us a little favor.
Do the YouTube thing.
We appreciate y'all. Good night. Hope y'all have a great week ahead.